I think as a rule, women often go to one extreme or another. They're too aggressive, they're too passive, they're not assertive enough. So on the passive side, it's what we talked about with the shoulders in, the not making eye contact, the conveying that they're not in their own power and that they're lacking confidence or knowledge or something. But then we see women that go to the other extreme, that they feel like they have to overspeak or over be present to get their command across, and, you know, show up like a guy and be as brusque and intense. And in my talk, Be Bold, Not Bossy, I talk about the B words, that women go to the other. So I have a concept, I'll go back a second and explain this because I think it's kind of interesting, of the boldness barometer is what I came up with. So on one end, we've got that passive, meek, quiet, disengaged, disinterested. So when you're quiet, I don't know if you are clueless as to what's going on and you're just like, I'm just going to sit here and keep my mouth shut because I don't know what's happening. Or if you have a million great ideas, but you're not confident enough to express them. And so I'm going to make up my own ideas about them. And that's what we talked about earlier. On the other end, you've got bold, brash, brazen, the bad B word, and like all that bucket of intensity. And sometimes we think when we come across strong, then we're really getting our message across. And that is a real turnoff, right? And so the way I talk about it in my talks is that the balance is blending assertiveness, humility, and tact. And when we can get that together, that's when we're at our peak in terms of being heard.
Okay, everybody, that was another one of the big truth bombs from our conversation. Blend assertiveness, humility, and tact to be heard. That's going to take some skill. That's going to take some thought. Are you being assertive but yet humble? Do you have tact when you're saying what it is that you're saying so that you don't just come off as brash? And all of those things will help you be heard. So now the next is the body language part. So let's listen.
And so there's all, I mean, you would be better at this than me, of talking about how the body language then ripples out to those two things. I mean, when you're too high on the boldness barometer, you're in people's faces, right? Like you're using passive aggressive qualifiers. Like, frankly, I got to tell you, or honestly, you know, and anytime you're starting off that way, what the other person does is, oh yeah, what do you have to say? And so they're not listening anymore. They're preparing their defense, right? And so we think that when we come across as strong, then people will really hear us. And more often than not, they tune us out. And so finding that leading with empathy and coming into situations with curiosity and a little bit quieter, I think can have a stronger presence look in the long term.
So let's unpack that just a little bit. How do we come in softer or with more equity, or, you know, how do we do that? Well, it doesn't mean that you have to be meek or that you need to do all of the things that we were telling women not to do, which is shrink and all of those things. The softness comes in from using your upper body. I know I talk about this almost every week, but I'm telling you, give yourself access to this upper body and you will see people open up to you in ways that you have never seen before, because this is our signal of compassion. This is our signal of caring. And what happens is women take on that maleness because they don't have as much access to this part of the body, because they've been taught that men don't cry and they don't show emotion and all of those sorts of things. So that kind of shuts us down if we're trying to be sort of manly, or we think to be executive, we have to turn this off. And that is so not true. So to come in softer, it's just having access to this. You're still using the same words. But instead of saying, maybe we could look at this another way, I don't believe that that is the best course of action for us to be taking right now. That is softer, coming in with without being over harsh or something, versus I don't think that's what we should be doing right now. I don't think that's the right course of action. You see how much harder, and I stiffened up and I tensed up and it made my voice go fast and get rougher, which is not what we want. We don't want to come off, that comes across as reactionary. And as soon as you come across that way, everybody else, as Tami was saying, shuts off to you. They tune you out, particularly women. They're going to tune us out. And so you need to be stealthier about it. Go in with the same comment, but with different body language, and they're not going to realize what hit them.